That's not good. That was my phone. That's really unprofessional on a podcast. Hello, you. It's so kind of you to tune in. I'd like to welcome you officially to season 2 of the Intentional podcast. On this podcast, we basically explore practical ideas surrounding living a more intentional life. And to introduce myself, I'm Rebecca Sano, and today we're going to be talking about what I now do. I'll call it, for simplicity and transparency, English tutoring. Okay? If you have listened to this podcast before, or the last one, in very, very specifically, the last episode that we did, myself and my husband Yannick, we talked about how we had recently quit our jobs. And from that episode came a whole host of inquiries and questions from many people around us, family members, friends, our friends on social media, and it just felt right to sort of like do a follow on, especially surrounding what I'm doing. So I'm going to talk a little bit in depth about that, and hopefully in a future episode, Yannick can do the same about his hustle. So we both quit our jobs. We weren't working the same job. So we both quit our separate jobs. Very, very I think it was just like 3 months apart that happened. And you can listen to that episode. It goes into detail about sort of the events that led up to those decisions that we made, and also sort of what we were going to go onto. But this one will be more in depth about what personally I am working on and what my sort of my little business is now. So welcome again, and you might have heard me mention this is season 2. Yes, it's season 2. Season 1 was very brief. Yes, I know, it lasted all of 3 episodes, but I thought, this is my podcast. I can do what I want. So if I want to throw in a season 2, having only done 3 episodes in season 1, I can do that because it's my podcast. So anyways, welcome to season 2. So the reason for season 2, I guess, is to just sort of usher in a new phase for this podcast. So previously, what we had been sort of focusing on was money and intentionality around sort of living intentionally with money. But now season 2 is going to be looking at a whole range of things. So it's not just looking at living practically, in an intentional sort of lifestyle with money, but just intentionally in all aspects of life. So that sort of like frees up the conversation to delve into bigger things, because yes, money is very important, but there are other things that are also, or if not more, important. So that's why we're switching things up in season 2. You'll be hearing a lot more of me as well. So Yannick is a very wonderful husband who supported me, especially with this podcast at its early launch, and sort of came on the podcast with me for the first few episodes, which was wonderful. But now it's time for me to step out on my own and kind of take this baby on my own. But he will still be joining every now and again to spit out his wisdom and hopefully, add value to anybody who is listening. Okay, so yes, that's the long and short of it. That's the long and short of season 2, and we'll be sort of like just making things a little bit more simple. So instead of doing podcasting with all the bells and whistles, it'll be more stripped back, more raw, because I don't really enjoy editing that much. So you're just gonna be getting the raw stuff, the stuff that comes out in the spur of the moment, and hopefully it's worth listening to, and I trust that it will be. Okay, cool. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this topic. Your time is precious. My time is precious. So let's get to the nitty-gritty of why we actually came here and why you're actually listening. So I'm keep calling it a gig, but now I'm actually calling it a business. This business of mine that I'm running now is actually to do with tutoring English and online. That's where it's taking place right now. And that's actually an official registered business. Yeah. Got all the papers for it and it's up and running, and it's been running for a few months now. And I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what that looks like, because I've had, on multiple occasions, people just asking me like, well, okay, how did you do this? Just curiosities and just being like, okay, so not even because people are interested in doing it for themselves, but it's just questions. So I thought, yes, if people are interested to do sort of like online tutoring the way that I've been doing it, it might be helpful for them. But then also just if somebody's just curious about what the heck it is and how it works, I will also hopefully satisfy those questions with my answers. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Why did I decide on starting an online tutoring business in 2021? Like I mentioned earlier on in the podcast, I had quit my job, quote unquote. So obviously go and listen to that episode where I do go into more details as to what led to this, everything, all the decisions and stuff. But sort of the long and short of it is that I was made redundant from the job that I had been doing for several months that I had got right at the beginning of the pandemic in March of 2020. So that chapter had closed, but it was really a blessing in disguise. It was something that I had to leave. Yeah, I had to leave. Essentially, let's sort of like just go to the reason why I actually settled on online tutoring and tutoring English in particular. It's because basically during the latter months of 2020, when, everybody had so much time on their hands, I was doing a lot of just like, searching, trying to get more clarity as to what I should be doing. Am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? I had a lot of questions, so I was doing a lot of searching like that. And I stumbled upon a podcast episode that I listened to, and I actually shared a little bit about this story on one of my good friends' podcast. It's called The Official African Auntie. Yes, I think I've got that right. The Official African Auntie. So you can go and listen to that. I think that episode was published around June or July time. Can't remember now, a few months ago. But yeah, I went into a little bit about this and what I did in those latter months in 2020 was I actually wrote a sort of like a mission or a purpose statement or a mission statement for my life, because I'm one of those people who I don't have that one passion, or I don't have that one thing that I know I need to do, that calling, or I don't feel like I do anyways. Maybe I just haven't found it. I hope I don't find it too late if that's the case. But I feel like I'm one of those people who's like not a generalist. No, I am oh God, I forgot that word, but there was a TED Talk on it that I watched that, I'm somebody who I just don't see myself committing to one thing for the rest of my life. It just seems like the most boring thing to me in my eyes. I applaud people who do it, but for me, I get bored. I need a new challenge every now and again, and I need it to be wildly different from what I have been doing already. Anyways, so this guy, Ben Greenfield, on the Minimalist Podcasts, one of my favorite podcasts, he came on and he talked about how him and his wife and his children, who are like 10, he's got some twins, they all have sort of like purpose statements or mission statements for their lives. And basically he was like, it sort of takes out all the ambiguity about what am I supposed to do with my life? What's that one thing I need to do with my life? Which is something I really resonated with. I was like, yeah, I really feel the same. Like, can you just tell me what I can sort of like, how I can channel this energy that I have within me, these interests, these talents, these passions that I have within me that I really want to share with the world? How do I sort of like, in that convoluted way, streamline them in a way that is actually going to be well channeled to the rest of the world? So it led me to creating my own mission statement. So I'll share it because I don't mind. It's not really private. It's actually something that I'd like to publicly share so that, you know, people hold me accountable to what I actually get involved in, because if it's not within or fitting in that thing, it's like my energy is limited, my resources are limited. I need to be channeling them into things that are actually going to be helping me live out my life the way I should, help me be fulfilled, help me serve and contribute in the best way that I can. So my mission statement in life is to, quote, to glorify God through writing, music, teaching, discussion, and intentional living. That was the long and short of it. How did I come up with these 5 things? I came up with them just by looking at what me as a person makes me feel alive. So what different things actually get me excited? What gets me intrigued? What gets me like really like, okay, yeah, let's do this? What gets me doing that? So these are the things that I came up with. And as you can hear, or if you remember, I said writing, music, teaching. Why can't I say that word? Writing, music, teaching, discussion, and intentional living. So teaching was one of those things that was in there. So when I was looking after my redundancy had occurred and I was thinking, okay, I need to make money. And obviously I had lots of different ideas like, oh, okay, I can just apply for a job and, you know, what I've been doing, just get another job. But that just wasn't in me. And I go into detail about why that wasn't in me in the last episode. So please go and listen to that if you have questions. But yes, I came into teaching because teaching was one of those things that I feel like I kind of have the knack for. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that I feel like I have the patience for, because teaching does, even the patience that I thought I had, it really gets pushed to its limits when I'm teaching. So I feel like I'm growing in that area as well, and I feel like that's something that I don't think would be detrimental. It would only bring positive effects if I have more patience in my life. I mean, who doesn't want more patience, right? It's not fun. Patience is not fun, but patience is beneficial, right? Patience is a virtue. Anyways, that's not good. That was my phone. That's really unprofessional on a podcast. Anyways, let's put that on silent. So that's what brought me to deciding on doing online teaching and online tutoring specifically as my sort of like my next thing to do. So let's go into the sort of like just the technical specificities of how I actually got to doing this. So as you would normally, you would go on Google and actually search, how do I get into online tutoring? How do I get into teaching English? Yeah. So I came across a few platforms. The first one that I actually started with was one called Ngo. So it's ENGOO. So that one was a very sort of like, once you're onboarded, your profile is created, you just start opening your schedule, and then you get the appointments coming through. They sort of set everything up for you. But I quickly realized that there was no growth potential for that platform. So their rate is like capped at like $10 an hour. So I was going into this sort of like teaching online on a full-time basis gig. I realized obviously that, you know, I'm coming into this new, I'm going to have to graft before I can actually sort of work at a comfortable rate. But I'm going to have to put in the work for basically nothing. So I understood that, and I was willing to do that, and I sort of envisioned that I would only need to do this for a set period of time before I was able to advance on to the next level. But Ngo, I quickly realized, did not offer that. It's like that is the rate for you and forever, basically. and it just wasn't something that was motivating enough for me to keep going. So I looked for another platform, and I came across one called Amazing Talker, which is the one that I use now. So basically, this was the complete opposite. So you set up your own profile, you put on your credentials right there, you tell prospective students how long you've sort of like had the experience in teaching, what you can offer them, what you specialize in, and you get to set your own rate. So for me, that was the most interesting and intriguing and attractive part to it. So I quickly signed up with them, and I had to do the grafting thing because there was a sort of like you have to show that you can do it, right? So I had to pretty much teach for very, very little money. I think I started at something like $8 an hour. Yeah, I think I started like at $8 an hour, which was just wild. But anyways, I did that because I knew that if I had the numbers, if I had the good reviews on my platform, then I would be able to get more students at a higher rate. So that's the platform that I use, and I get the students are sourced pretty much already on there because it's a Hong Kong platform, and they match me with students who are similar to the requirements that I sort of the requirements that they need and the services that I can offer. Okay, let's go on to the demand. The demand for students is quite good. Yeah, it's quite good overall. So I've been on the platform for the last, let's see here, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. So that's for the last 7 months. And overall, I haven't really seen too much of a dry spell except from August. And the reason for that is because it's the summer holidays and not many people are looking to start learning how to speak English in the summer holidays. They really picked up this September, but otherwise before that, it was also very, very busy. But in the holiday season, that's the only one that I saw that it wasn't as busy. Otherwise, aside from that, I teach children, I teach teenagers, and I teach adults. I prefer teaching adults only because when I engage in conversation with them, it is more stimulating for me. So I get to learn a little bit more about them. But I also still learn quite a lot from the children. And most of them are complete characters. So I just have a really, really good time just understanding how their mind works. And then we have the teens in the middle, which is a little bit the best of both, I guess. So like I said, it's a Hong Kong-based company, Amazing Talker. So most of my students are based out of Hong Kong. I have other Asian countries, so like mainland China, and then we've got Taiwan, Japan, Korea, those kind of countries. And also I have some European students. I've got a student in, two students now in Russia. I've got Spain, Spanish, French, I think Ukrainian, and also somebody in the US who moved from Nepal. So it's a whole host of people who are just like, Vietnamese, Malaysian, all of those, they're there. So it's a really big, broad spectrum of students whom are just fantastic. Okay, so how do I source my lesson materials? So on Amazing Talker, you have to plan your own lessons, okay? Basically, the answer to how I source my lesson materials for lessons is a lot of research, right? So basically, you can know how to speak a language, right? But do you know how to teach a language? So throughout my however long I've been teaching now, I've just been learning more and more how to like break concepts down. It's like sometimes I would tell somebody, that's not how you say it like this. And it's like, but why do you say it like that? That's the question. It's like, why? Okay, then I need to understand, like for myself, the grammar behind it, because if somebody doesn't understand why, they'll just memorize that phrase, but won't be able to apply it to other situations. So a lot of research into being able to break those concepts down and relay them in the most basic way to somebody whose English level is already limited. So without using complex jargon, etc., etc. So I've got particular resources that are my favorite, such as Twinkle, especially for the kids, and then also resources that have been shared with me from my mentors, who I'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, number 5, what I enjoy most about teaching and tutoring online. So going back to my mission or purpose statement, I talked about my mission is to glorify God through writing, music, teaching, discussion, and intentional living. So for this one, the bit that I really enjoy about teaching or tutoring online is the discussion part, the conversation, right? Meeting new people from different places who are different from me, and sort of learning about them, learning about their cultures, learning about their lives, learning about how life is so different to them or how life is so similar to mine, finding common grounds and interests, actually getting to know people, because I've had some students since I began on the platform, so I've been talking to them since March, and some of them I'm like, okay, so how's this going, how's that going? And most of them, they're so trusting with some of the details in their lives, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, we are mates. And I'll share a little bit about myself with them. So it's something that I really enjoy. I like that interaction where I am just exposed to this whole new world. Like I'm just like learning all the time. I'm just learning. I'm like, what? There's what? Like seriously, there's so much that I just didn't know. And that also includes the children as well, because I don't know, have that show, Are You Smarter Than a 10-year-old? And most of the time I'm just like, you're teaching me a thing or two. But it's fantastic. I love the whole discussion and conversation and sharing ideas and seeing also how they improve, how they actually progress from the initial stage and the initial time or the initial lesson that we have, where they're so shy and they're like, I'm not confident, I'm really scared to speak with native speakers, to 10 lessons down the line, or whatever, 5, 6, 7, and they're absolutely like a whole different person. They've got the confidence, they've got they've sort of got this hope and faith now, because most of them, they come there and they're like, it's too late for me, it's too late, I should have done it when I was a kid. But here I am, and it's like, no, they get that renewed hope, and they're like, okay, yeah, I think I can do this, I can see that I'm improving, I'm reaching my goals, I can speak with my colleagues, I can do this, I can do that. So for me, that's super, super encouraging. I'm like, I was part of that journey. That's really nice. It's a good feeling to be somebody who can assist somebody to get into where they want to be. And also, lastly, the thing that I enjoy I said that I enjoy most, and I've given 3 things. I guess I enjoy them all the most. But anyways, maybe appreciating language, okay? So basically, I'm always astounded. I'm like, wow, language is so complex. It's like, what one word it is to like describe many things in English. There's like 13 different ones in Chinese. I'm like, what? Like this language, I always find it so fascinating. I'm like, wow, how amazing that, we can use language to communicate like this, and how this thing, you can't do particular things in another country. Like, for example, you can't use the word you in, I think it was Chinese. A student was telling me, like, it's not polite. Like, could you pass me that pen? Like, you couldn't even say that to somebody in Chinese, because if you say you, it's like completely impolite. And I'm like, no, you can definitely do that in English. It's like, that doesn't even apply. So yeah, no, things like that are just super fascinating for me, and I'm just like, I'm just a nerd over it, and I love that stuff. And yeah, just the aspect of learning as well. Okay, number 6, what I enjoy least about teaching or tutoring online. Okay, so a lot of talking to people. Yeah, I know I've just said I like the conversation and the discussion, but I think it depends how much and which day it catches me on. Yeah, so it can be super, super enjoyable and the most fun thing ever. And I'm here like cracking up in the office, like laughing and absolutely having the time of my life. Or it can just be like, oh my days, I've got 2 more hours of talking to people and I'd rather just sit in front of the telly and watch Netflix, right? So there's like a fine line. Most of the time is positive, but you get to that point where you've been talking for the last 7 hours, because usually if I have a full schedule in a day, I'm talking to people for a maximum of 9 hours. Let's say I get a fully booked day, and that's 9 hours of talking. That's a lot of talking, right? So I enjoy it, but to a certain extent. Too much of anything is not good, right? So if I'm having too much of it, and I'm not on the day where I'm like super just vibrant and extroverted, all my extroverted qualities coming out because I'm super introverted. So it's like if I'm just having an introvert day where I'm like, oh, I don't need anybody today, that can be tough, right? But nonetheless, we push through, because essentially the other thing is that you have to be at level 100 for each student. It's like you can't give student at 5 o'clock half energy, 50%, because you have to give 100% to the first one, maybe 90 for the second one, 80 for the third one, fourth one. No, it doesn't work like that. It's like 100 all throughout. So when I'm getting on the call, I'm like, hello, how are you? Good morning. How was your day? It's a lot, right? You have to give them a lot, because it's like, it's also sort of whatever energy you're giving them, that's the energy they're going to put into the lesson. So I feel kind of responsible for that. I'm like, I can't come here with 50-50. No, I have to be there, especially the kids, man. You need to give them a lot, but it's still the joy of it. Yeah. I wouldn't say that it's something that's 100% perfect, but it's still a very, very enjoyable experience. Number 7, can anyone get involved with online tutoring? Yes and no. So I say yes and no because yes, anyone can do anything if you put your mind to it, right? Anyone can do anything if you put your mind to it, or if they put their mind to it. So that's just the fact of the matter, right? But also no, because the real question, I believe, is whether it's the right fit for the person. Okay, so you could do it, but is it the right fit? So taking into account most of the things that I've already said, you would know by now if it's the right fit or not. So I would say yes and no. So I won't dwell too much on that point, because I feel like you can delve into what I have said and actually ascertain whether that's a yes for you or a no for you. Yeah, but it's there, you know what I mean? It's something that's completely acceptable. I wouldn't say that it excludes anybody. If you've got the skills, if you can do it, if you've got the patience, if you've got the teacher or teaching mindset, the teaching personality, you can do it. If you don't, it's okay. Move on to the next opportunity. Okay, number 8. How easy is it to make a full-time income from online tutoring? So I wouldn't say it's easy. I wouldn't say to somebody it's easy. No. I would say that it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort, especially in the preliminary stages. You want to put in a lot of work for almost nothing. You have to put in a lot of work, even though you're not seeing the results. But if you have the long-term perspective in mind, then you can definitely do it, right? Because it takes a lot of sort of motivation in those early stages, because you're not really seeing what you should be seeing, or you can't really visualize, or you can't tangibly see what the equivalent reward to what you're putting in, right, in the initial stages. So you really have to kind of get in there with the long-term mindset, okay? So it's possible to make a full-time income. It's not easy to get from the very beginning to where I'd say I am now, but it's definitely doable. Putting in a lot of time, putting in a lot of effort, and you've got to treat it as a full-time gig. You can't go in it with the part-time side hustle mentality expecting to make a full-time income. It's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. So I think that answers that question. So I don't want to delve too much into that. Number 9, my experience and how I scaled up my income to making a full-time income, right? So I think I mentioned it. I started properly around mid-March. And I would say it took me about 3 months to get to a full-time income, right? Where, to be honest, probably about month 2? No, I'll say month 3. About month 3 to get to a full-time income. So I did half a month for the first one, March. So obviously I couldn't make a full-time income just doing half a month. Then I did April, and that was looking all right. And then I did April, May. And then I was like, okay, yeah, we're getting somewhere. And then from then on, it's just kind of been an increase. And thankfully, because I've been increasing my rate at each point, it's like my income has increased along with it, my overall income. And I've had to work less, which is just a delight. Okay, cool. Let's round this off with what exactly... before I move on, actually, on Amazing Talker, there's a mentorship program. So the other thing that helped me get to a full-time income in that amount of time, I could have done it in shorter if I could, but I was traveling. I was in Rwanda. There was a lot going on. I wanted to live my life at the same time. So getting a mentor on Amazing Talker was really beneficial, because it's like when you get a mentor, they already know the ins and outs. They already know the ropes and everything like that. So they can easily help you get to where you want to get to by saying, okay, don't do this. Yeah, you can do this. Or yeah, maybe watch out for that. So they kind of show you, and they've got an overall view. And then, I think the last thing I would say is that I knew my why, because I knew where I was coming from, and I was like, this has to work. I've got to make this work. I've got to make it work. Otherwise, I have to go back to that. So my why was very strong. I was like, anything but. Because like I was loving the flexibility then. I still am loving the flexibility now. I work when I want to, how I want to, in whatever I want to dress like, in whatever I want to look like. I don't have to leave my house. I just don't know if there's anything better than that. So yeah, no, those reasons were super, super motivating for me. It was like, yes, this is it. I work, I don't work on a Wednesday. It's just bliss. This is everything I've ever wanted. So I'm like, my why is too strong. I can't not actually make this work. So that, have a really, really strong why. Yeah. For you to scale up your income, have a strong why, know why you're doing it, and get a mentor if you're going to use Amazing Talker. If you're going to use another platform, maybe they have a mentorship program on there. If you're going to do it on your own, try and have a mentor to actually, because otherwise it's like you're trying to figure everything out, and you're trying to, I would say, in a way, reinvent the wheel when somebody already has invented it, and they can just be like, all right, I'll give you a prototype so you can make your own. So yeah. Number 10, let's round this up. What does my day-to-day look like? So every day, pretty much every day, when I'm working, I get up at 6:40 a.m. I know it's very specific, but I need 20 minutes to make my brew, to make myself not look like I was asleep. So to spruce myself up, because all of these guys are like in Asia and whatnot, bar they're Europeans, but they would be probably, it's like 2:00 there. So obviously I want to look ready. I want to look like, I've been awake for a few hours, done my yoga, done everything, when really I haven't. But anyways, wake up at 6:40, make myself a brew, get myself looking alive, turn on my laptop and my light, because it's really dark at that time, especially now that we're in autumn. It's getting darker and darker. And then my first lesson starts usually at 7 a.m. because it is 2 p.m. in Hong Kong at that time. So I usually would say I would have either a Hong Kong student or the like. So I'll start at 7. I will work until 10. Have a 1 hour break for my breakfast and to just do whatever it is that I want. Go for a walk, watch a bit of Netflix, which I usually do actually. Eat and maybe do some exercise. Then I'm back in at 11, and then I'll have my lunch break at 2. So that's like 3-hour blocks that I teach. So my lunch hour, I'll have my lunch again, do whatever I want at that time, stretch my legs, and then I will start again at 3:00, and then I'll finish my last lesson, should I have it, at 6. So sometimes I have breaks in the middle, because it's not like I have a booking at every hour, but potentially if I'm to have a full day, which I sometimes do, it'll include 9 hours of teaching time. So that's why I kind of like to break it up into hours of 3, so that I don't go crazy talking to people, because I have done the whole stretch and it's atrocious. My head just hurt like crazy. So so that's the usual schedule for Mondays, Tuesdays. No work on Wednesdays, so I just do whatever I want to do on Wednesdays. Thursdays, Fridays, I'm back to it. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then half of Saturday. So I usually do a 7 a.m. lesson, and then I break because I go for park run, and then I come back at 11 after I've all showered up and eaten, and then I'll teach until 2, and then I'm done for the day. Cool. yeah, so the reason I teach on a Saturday is because some students are too busy during the week, either with work or school, so they prefer to have a Saturday lesson. So instead of me just saying, no, I don't work at the weekends, I just felt like might have been more detrimental to my growth. So I thought, yeah, let's do a Wednesday off full, and then we'll do a half Saturday. Okay, so that is the long and short of everything online tutoring, everything English tutoring. I've tried to give as much information. Hopefully I haven't waffled too much. I've tried to stick onto the topics and the questions, bar the phone call. Sorry about that. But I do hope that you've sort of got a few ideas from this episode. So let's round it up there. Thank you so much for joining me on the Intentionary podcast once again. I've been your host, Rebecca Sano. If you did enjoy listening today, do share this podcast with either a friend, a family member, a neighbor, a colleague, or anyone you think would benefit from it. You can also comment on this episode on our podcast channel on YouTube. Any show notes for the episodes will be available on our website, intentionary.com. And if you'd like to have show notes for future episodes sent directly to your inbox, just sign up for our mailing list. If you do have a question, a comment, or a tip on intentional living for the podcast, would love to hear from you. So please email us either a voice memo or a question or whatever, an email to podcast@intentionary.com. You can subscribe and follow our podcast on your preferred platform. And if you do, for example, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or YouTube, you can just leave us a review or a comment or a like, whatever rocks your boat. Keep up with us in real time on Instagram. We are at intentionary.co. And then lastly, we'd love for you to consider supporting our work through our Patreon page. So if you want to do so, head over to patreon.com/intentionary, where you can sign up to become a patron. We'll give you a shout out in our upcoming episodes as a sign of our appreciation and love once you do. All right, so that about covers everything. Thank you so much again for listening, guys. We appreciate you. I appreciate you. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.